Hey guys, Nick Biddle here coming at you with this week's Leadership Drip. Going through a series revealing the leader within. This week, we're going to talk about how kindness is a strength, not a weakness. Too often we think it's a weakness, but kindness is a strength. And I have a story I'm going to read you. I'd forgotten about this story. I ran across it the other day, and so I want to read it to you. So I'm gonna read and hold the phone. So bear with me. This is written by a cab driver in a big city. 20 years ago, I drove cab for a living. One night, I took a fare at 2:30 a.m. When I arrived to collect my passenger, the building was dark except for a single light and a ground floor window. Under these circumstances, many drivers would just honk once, but I had seen too many impoverished people who depended on taxis as their only means of transportation. Unless the situation smelled of danger, I always went to the door. This passenger might be someone who needs my assistance, I reasoned to myself. So I walked to the door and knocked. "Just a minute," answered a frail, elderly voice. I could hear something being dragged across the floor. After a long pause, the door opened. A small woman in her 80s stood before me. She was wearing a print dress and a pillbox hat with a veil pinned on it like something out of a 1940s movie. By her side was a small nylon suitcase. The apartment looked as if no one had lived in it for years. All the furniture was covered with sheets. There were no clocks on the walls, no knickknacks or utensils on the counters. In the corner was a cardboard box filled with photos and glassware. "Would you carry my bag out to the car?" she asked. I took the suitcase to my cab and then returned to assist the woman. She took my arm and we walked slowly toward the curb. She kept thanking me for my kindness. "It's nothing," I told her. "I just try to treat my passengers the way I would want my mother treated." "Oh, you're such a good man," she said. When we got in the cab, she gave me an address and then asked, "Could you drive through downtown?" "It's not the shortest way," I answered quickly. "Oh, I don't mind," she said. "I'm in no hurry. I'm on my way to a hospice." I looked in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were glistening. "I don't have any family left," she quietly said to herself. "The doctor says I don't have very long left." I quietly reached over and shut off the meter. "What route would you like for me to take?" I asked. For the next 2 hours, we drove through the city. She showed me the building where she had once worked as an elevator operator. We drove through the neighborhood where she and her husband had lived when they were newlyweds. She had me pull up in front of a furniture warehouse that had once been a ballroom where she had gone dancing as a girl. Sometimes she would ask me to slow down in front of a particular building or corner and would sit, staring into the darkness, saying nothing. As the first hint of sun was creasing the horizon, she suddenly said, "I'm tired. Let's go now." We drove in silence to the address she had given me. It was a low building, like a small convalescent home with a driveway that passed under a portico. 2 orderlies came out to the cab as soon as we pulled up. They were solicitous and intent, watching her every move. They must have been expecting her. I opened the trunk and took out a small suitcase to the door. The woman was already seated in a wheelchair. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching into her purse. "Nothing," I said. "Well, you have to make a living," she answered. "Oh, there are other passengers for that," I responded. Almost without thinking, I bent down and gave her a hug. She held on to me tightly. Our hug ended with her remark, "You gave an old woman a little moment of joy." After a slight pause, she added, "Thank you." I squeezed her hand and then walked into the dim morning light. Behind me, a door shut. It was the sound of the closing of a life. I didn't pick up any more passengers that shift. I drove aimlessly, lost in thought for the rest of that day. I could hardly talk. What if that woman had gotten into an angry driver's cab or one who was impatient and ready to end his shift? What if I'd refused to take the run or had honked once and driven away? On quick review, I don't think that I have done anything more important in all of my life. We're conditioned to think that our lives revolve around great moments, but it's great moments that often catch us unaware, beautifully wrapped in what others may consider a small one. Love that story. And I urge you to remember that story anytime you want to be anything but kind. Kindness is a strength. Till next time, take care.